Doctor's prescription is you 3 times a day, the billionaire said to the young virgin wife. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Doctor's prescription is you 3 times a day, the billionaire said to the young virgin wife. Let's return to our main character. Emma Brooks had always lived a life of quiet determination. A waitress at a small local cafe in downtown Chicago, she'd long learned to make do with what she had. Her second-hand clothes, chipped shoes, and the weight of overdue bills, she knew them well. But tonight was different. Tonight, she was at a high-end restaurant, nervously waiting for her blind date to arrive. She glanced at the table number on her phone, table 7. Her hands trembled slightly, not from the chill in the air but from the growing anxiety inside her. She was a long way from her usual world, the smell of expensive food and the quiet hum of conversations a stark contrast to her usual life. She'd promised her best friend Jenny that she would go through with it, the blind date. The one Jenny had set her up on. It wasn't exactly a night she'd been looking forward to, but if it meant she could get Jenny off her back, she'd go through with it. After all, it wasn't every day she got asked out to a fancy restaurant. As she stood at the entrance, she scanned the room, looking for the man she was supposed to meet. She had no idea who he was, but Jenny had said he was shy, a little reserved, and maybe a bit awkward. Emma figured she could handle awkward. Her eyes landed on a man sitting alone, engrossed in his phone, looking every bit the picture of refinement. He had dark hair, neatly styled, and wore a sharp suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. This had to be him, she thought. Her heart pounded as she walked toward the table, breath catching in her throat. "Hi, you must be Kevin," she said, offering a smile that felt more like an act than anything genuine. The man looked up at her, blinking in surprise. His eyes widened for a split second, but then he gave a faint, confused smile. Hi, Emma," he said, his voice polite but distant. A rush of embarrassment washed over her, and she almost apologized right then and there. But she didn't. Instead, she took the seat across from him, forcing herself to smile. "I know this is awkward. Blind dates are weird, right? Jenny told me you might be a little quiet, so don't worry. I can talk enough for both of us." The man, Kevin, as she had assumed, didn't immediately respond. He hesitated for a moment, looking at her as if trying to figure her out. She, on the other hand, wasn't sure what to make of him either. His suit was too expensive, his manner too calm, too composed. He wasn't exactly what she expected. He wasn't shy. He wasn't awkward. He was distant, but somehow still warm in a way that confused her. He opened his mouth to say something but seemed to think better of it. Instead, he smiled faintly. "Right, blind dates are something else," he muttered, half to himself. Emma couldn't help but laugh a little, her nerves still getting the better of her. She was used to the comfort of talking, filling the silence with her rambling stories. But now, there was an awkward tension between them, one she wasn't sure how to break. As the conversation started to flow, she learned more about Kevin, or so she thought. He worked in tech, though when she pressed him for more details, he simply smiled and said, something like that. It was vague, but she didn't push it. She was used to people not being totally forthcoming about their lives. She wasn't exactly one to spill all her secrets either. After a few moments of silence, she asked him, "So, what do you do in tech? Like, apps and coding and stuff?" She tried to make it sound casual, but the words came out more awkwardly than she meant. Kevin just smiled, the faintest glimmer of amusement in his eyes. "Something like that," he said again, his smile still there, but guarded. Emma couldn't help but wonder why he was being so elusive. But she didn't dwell on it too much. After all, she wasn't exactly being the most open either. She changed the subject, telling him about her dream of someday opening an art studio, sharing a few of her sketches with him when the conversation turned to hobbies. But when she got a text from Jenny saying she was at table 7, reality hit. She looked up at Kevin again, cheeks flushing with embarrassment. "Oh my God. You're not Kevin, are you?" she whispered, mortified. Kevin's smile faltered as he realized what had happened. "No, I'm not," he said, his voice tinged with guilt. Emma stood up quickly, her heart racing. "I'm so sorry. I sat at the wrong table," she stammered, her face bright red. Without waiting for a response, she grabbed her coat and hurried out the door, her thoughts a swirl of embarrassment. She had just made the biggest fool of herself. Kevin watched her go, a strange mix of regret and curiosity filling him. He had wanted to correct her from the start, but something about the way she was so genuine, so unaffected by the world around her, had made him hesitate. She wasn't like the women he usually met, the polished socialites and businesswomen who were all about appearances. Emma was different. And now, as he sat there alone, he realized he might never see her again. He wasn't sure why that bothered him so much. The next day, Emma couldn't shake off the memory of the night before. She'd made a fool of herself, sitting at the wrong table in a fancy restaurant, thinking she was meeting Kevin, when in fact, she'd been talking to a complete stranger. But there was something about him that stayed with her, something that made her pause every time she thought about it. She tried to distract herself with the usual routine, her shift at the diner, the endless cycle of cleaning tables, serving meals, and the same worn-out conversations with regulars. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't forget the look in his eyes, that faint smile, and the way he hesitated before speaking. It was almost as if he'd been intrigued by her. It made no sense. Why would a man like him care? She was nothing special. Just a waitress with a second-hand dress and scuffed shoes. Yet, the more she thought about it, the more she realized she couldn't shake the feeling that she had made an impression on him, even if just for a fleeting moment. As she wiped down the counter at the end of her shift, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She froze, unsure of what to expect. When she pulled it out, her heart skipped a beat. It was a message from an unknown number. "Hi Emma, this is Liam. I was the guy you sat with last night at the restaurant. I know it was a mix-up, but I'd love to meet you again. How about coffee?" Her breath caught in her throat. Liam. That name sounded so familiar now. She couldn't believe it. After all that had happened, he was reaching out. Her mind raced, trying to decide what to do. This was crazy. Why would he want to meet again? Was it pity? Or maybe he was just bored? She stared at the message for a few moments longer before finally typing a response. "Coffee sounds nice." The reply came quickly. "Great. Let's meet tomorrow at 2. I'll pick the place." Emma didn't know what to expect. Was this just another awkward encounter, or was it something more? She didn't want to get her hopes up. But as she sat down that evening in her tiny apartment, she realized something she hadn't noticed before. She was looking forward to it. The next day, Emma showed up at the coffee shop, her nerves on edge. She wasn't sure why she was so anxious. It was just coffee. But as she walked in, she spotted him immediately. He was sitting in the corner, casually dressed in a soft sweater and jeans. Gone was the sharp suit from last night. In its place, a man who looked much more like a real person, not some distant, polished millionaire. "Hi," she said as she walked up to his table. He looked up, his face lighting up with a smile. "Hey, Emma. Thanks for agreeing to meet up again." She smiled nervously, taking the seat across from him. "No problem. I thought I owed you an apology for running out last night." "No need for that," he said, his tone light and easy. "I understand. It was a pretty funny mix-up. But I'm glad we're getting the chance to talk again." They both settled into the conversation easily. Like old friends catching up after years apart. Emma found herself laughing more than she expected. His dry humor and calm demeanor were soothing, and for once, she didn't feel so out of place. He didn't look at her like the other men she'd met, like she was just a waitress, just someone to be ignored or overlooked. No, he seemed genuinely interested in her thoughts and stories. After a while, Emma decided to ask him about his work. So, you said you work in tech, right? What exactly do you do? He hesitated for just a moment before answering. I'm in a few startups, mostly. Some coding, some managing. It's a bit all over the place, honestly. That sounds interesting, Emma said, her curiosity piqued. I can barely turn on my computer without messing it up. He chuckled softly. I can help with that if you want. It's not as hard as it seems once you get the hang of it. Emma smiled, feeling the weight of the conversation ease. This felt normal. Easy. But just as she was about to ask him more about his life, she noticed something, a hint of hesitation in his eyes. It was subtle, but it was there. As if he was holding something back. Is everything okay? She asked, concerned. He paused, then nodded slowly. Yeah. It's just, there's something I've been meaning to tell you. But I wasn't sure how to say it. Her heart skipped. What is it? Liam hesitated for a long moment, then finally spoke, his voice softer than before. I think you deserve to know who I really am. I'm not just a guy who works in tech. Emma furrowed her brow, unsure where this was going. What do you mean? Liam took a deep breath. I'm Liam Parker, CEO of Parker Technologies. And last night, when you sat with me, I wasn't just some regular guy. I'm the guy you were supposed to meet. Emma blinked, the world around her suddenly feeling dizzy. CEO? The man sitting across from her, the man who seemed so down-to-earth, so real, was a millionaire CEO? The realization hit her hard. She felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment. She had just spilled her guts about her struggles, her dreams, everything she thought she was supposed to hide from a man like him. And now this? But then, something unexpected happened. Liam reached across the table, his eyes softening with sincerity. I know this is a lot to take in. But I didn't want to tell you last night. I wanted you to know me, not just my title. I didn't want you to see me as just the CEO. I wanted you to see me as Liam. And in that moment, something inside Emma shifted. The initial shock faded, and all she could feel was relief. For the first time in a long while, she realized she wasn't just talking to a man with money. She was talking to someone who, despite his wealth, actually wanted to get to know her. And that was something she hadn't expected. But it was something she wasn't about to let slip away. As Emma sat there, the shock from Liam's revelation still buzzing in her mind, she found herself trying to process everything at once. The man she had just spent hours talking to, the man she had felt so comfortable with, was not just a regular guy from tech. He was Liam Parker, the CEO of Parker Technologies, a name she had heard in passing but never thought much about. She had always imagined people like him to be distant, unapproachable, too busy with their own world to ever care about someone like her. But here he was, sitting across from her, not just as the CEO but as Liam. The way he had said it, so casually, made it feel almost like an afterthought. He hadn't mentioned it last night, and in that moment, Emma couldn't help but feel a little relieved. He had treated her like a real person, not a waitress, not someone beneath him, but just someone to talk to. And that made the difference. But now, there was a question that lingered in the air, a question Emma had been too afraid to ask until now. Was it just about the contract for him? Or was there more? You really meant it, didn't you? She asked softly, her voice tinged with vulnerability. You wanted to get to know me for me, not just the title I didn't even know you had. Liam looked at her for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then, with a quiet sigh, he leaned back in his chair, his fingers lightly tracing the rim of his coffee cup. I didn't want you to see me as just the CEO, not before we could talk. I know it's complicated, and I know the whole situation is strange, but I didn't want to hide behind my title. I wanted to see if there was something real between us before anything else. Emma took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. The words "something real" echoed in her mind. She had been so used to people seeing her as a waitress, just someone who was there to serve them, to disappear. No one ever really looked at her the way Liam had. And for the first time, she realized, maybe she had been holding herself back, too. Maybe she had been too afraid to see what could happen if she let herself feel something. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why wait until now?" Liam paused, his gaze drifting toward the window. "I didn't want to make it about my wealth or status. I didn't want to risk you thinking I was just another rich guy trying to buy someone's attention. I wanted to get to know you first, without the pressure of all that. But now, I see it's not that simple, is it?" Emma shook her head, a smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "No, it's not that simple. But I'm glad you did what you did." She wasn't sure if she meant it entirely, but in that moment, she realized something. The man sitting across from her had chosen to be vulnerable. He had chosen to connect with her on a level that went beyond titles or money. And that was worth something. Maybe we should take things one step at a time," she suggested, her fingers nervously playing with the edge of her napkin. Liam met her gaze, his smile softening. "I agree. I don't want to rush anything, but I also don't want to pretend like this doesn't mean something." They both fell into a quiet moment, the weight of their words hanging in the air. It wasn't the typical blind date conversation, and Emma didn't know what to expect next. But for the first time in a long while, she felt like maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something different. Over the next few days, Emma found herself thinking about Liam more often than she cared to admit. His messages were polite but still warm, his questions about her life genuine. He asked about her art, her dreams, and even about the little things she had never shared with anyone. She found herself opening up more than she had with anyone in years, and it felt good. But the truth still lingered in the back of her mind. How could she, a waitress with nothing to her name, really have a future with someone like him? The doubt crept in again, but she pushed it away. One evening, as she was walking home after a long shift, Emma received another message from Liam. "I was thinking about our conversation," it read. "I know it's not the right time, but I want to do something for you. Maybe we could take a trip to the art gallery this weekend? You could show me your favorite pieces. No strings attached. Just an afternoon together." Her heart skipped. She stared at the message for a while, feeling a mix of excitement and fear. She had always dreamed of taking someone to the gallery, sharing her world with them, but the idea of doing it with him, the CEO, felt surreal. Was it a date? Or was it just a casual outing? Her finger hovered over the reply button as she debated whether or not to accept the invitation. Finally, she typed back, her thumb pausing before hitting send. "That sounds wonderful. I'd love to." She smiled, the excitement building within her. The weekend couldn't come soon enough. The weekend arrived, and Emma found herself standing in front of the art gallery, her heart racing in anticipation. She had agreed to meet Liam there, and the thought of spending an afternoon with him, just the two of them, felt both exciting and intimidating. She had spent hours picking out her outfit, trying to look put together but not too flashy, trying to find that balance between looking casual and still putting in some effort. When she arrived, the cool breeze of the early afternoon brushed against her skin as she looked up at the tall, glass-fronted building. Inside, the gallery was quiet, as always, with soft lighting that highlighted the artwork without overpowering it. It was one of Emma's favorite places, a sanctuary where she could lose herself in the beauty of other people's creations. She waited near the entrance, her hands fidgeting with the strap of her bag, as she glanced around. She tried to shake off the nervousness creeping up on her. This was supposed to be fun, right? Just an afternoon together, like any other. But nothing about this felt ordinary. The man she was meeting wasn't just anyone. He was Liam Parker, the CEO she had unknowingly sat next to in that restaurant, the man who had shattered her expectations in ways she hadn't even imagined. And now, here she was, about to share something so personal with him, her love for art, the thing she cared about most. Just then, she saw him across the room. He was standing near the entrance, looking around as if he were searching for her. When he spotted her, a warm smile spread across his face, and he made his way toward her. He was dressed casually, in a soft sweater and jeans, looking every bit as handsome as she remembered, but in a way that felt so much more approachable than the man in the suit from the night they met. "Hey, Emma," he greeted her, his voice smooth and easy. "I hope I didn't keep you waiting too long." "No, not at all," Emma replied, smiling back at him. "I just got here." He stepped closer, and Emma noticed how his eyes seemed to light up as he looked at her. It made her heart flutter, but she quickly pushed the feeling aside, reminding herself that this wasn't a date, at least, that's what she kept telling herself. "Shall we?" Liam asked, gesturing toward the exhibits. "Definitely," Emma replied, leading the way. She was excited, but also nervous. This was her world, and she had to admit, she was a little apprehensive about sharing it with him. She wasn't sure what to expect from him. Did he really care about art, or was this just something to pass the time? But as they moved through the gallery, stopping in front of various pieces, Emma began to feel more at ease. Liam was genuinely interested in what she had to say about each painting, each sculpture. He asked questions, listened carefully to her opinions, and even seemed to enjoy the stories behind the pieces. It was almost as if he was seeing her in a new light, and for the first time, she realized that maybe, just maybe, this could be something more than a business arrangement. As they moved from one exhibit to the next, Emma found herself laughing at the little comments Liam made. He had a way of making her feel like they were in their own little world, where nothing else mattered. It felt natural, easy, and she found herself opening up in ways she hadn't expected. They talked about their favorite artists, their memories of visiting galleries in other cities, and even their childhood dreams. At one point, they stopped in front of a large canvas, a chaotic swirl of colors and shapes that Emma loved. "This one always makes me feel like there's something just beneath the surface, like a story waiting to be told," she said, her voice quiet and reflective. Liam nodded thoughtfully, his gaze fixed on the painting. "I get that. It's like there's more to it than meets the eye." Emma smiled, impressed by how he was able to see what she saw. For a moment, the world around them faded, and it was just the two of them in that space, sharing something real and meaningful. As they walked toward the next exhibit, Emma noticed that the nervousness she had felt earlier was gone. She was starting to enjoy this more than she ever thought she would. "So, what about you?" she asked, turning to Liam. "What do you like to do when you're not working or are running a billion-dollar company?" Liam chuckled softly, a hint of amusement in his eyes. "I like to keep a low profile, actually. But I guess if I'm being honest, I'm really into hiking. It clears my mind. It's the one time I can escape from everything, no emails, no meetings." Emma raised an eyebrow, surprised. "Hiking? I never would have guessed that." "Why?" Liam asked, grinning. "I don't know. I guess I always imagined people like you doing, well, more corporate stuff, like board meetings or charity galas." He laughed, the sound easy and genuine. "I do those too. But hiking? It's my thing. You should try it sometime." Emma smiled. "Maybe I will." As they continued walking through the gallery, Emma couldn't help but think about how different this was from everything she had imagined. She had never thought she would end up here, with Liam, talking about hiking and art in a place she loved so much. It felt so right. She wasn't sure where things would go from here, but she wasn't as scared of the future anymore. Whatever it was, she knew it was worth exploring. The afternoon at the gallery flew by faster than Emma had expected, and as they stepped out into the crisp evening air, Emma couldn't help but feel like something had shifted between them. They were no longer strangers, no longer just two people sitting at a table awkwardly making conversation. Somehow, through the art, through the shared stories, they had connected on a deeper level. Liam, the mysterious, wealthy man she had been so uncertain about, was now someone she felt she could talk to, someone she actually wanted to get to know more. "So, what now?" she asked, breaking the comfortable silence between them as they walked down the street, the city bustling around them. Liam turned to her with a playful smile. "Well, I was thinking we could grab some dinner. Unless you've got somewhere better to be." She laughed softly. "I can't think of anywhere better right now." He led her to a small bistro just around the corner, a place with an intimate atmosphere and an old-world charm that made it feel like they had stepped into another time. It was the kind of place Emma wouldn't normally have chosen, not because she didn't like it, but because it felt a little too fancy for someone like her. But with Liam, it didn't seem to matter. She felt comfortable here, just like she had in the gallery, as if nothing about the world around them could touch them. As they sat down, the evening light filtering through the windows, they talked about everything and nothing. They shared stories of their childhoods, their favorite places in the city, and even their awkward first dates. Emma found herself laughing more than she had in ages, and it felt good to just be herself, without pretending or worrying about what Liam might think. He was easy to talk to, surprisingly down-to-earth despite his wealth, and she could see the genuine curiosity in his eyes as he asked about her life. "So, Emma," Liam began, his tone light but curious, "tell me more about your art. You said you wanted to open a studio one day, right? What's holding you back?" Her heart gave a little twist at the question. It was a dream she had held onto for so long, but the reality of it always seemed just out of reach. "I don't know, money, time, life, I guess. I mean, it's not easy, right? Getting the resources together for something like that. And I don't exactly have the kind of connections or financial backing that someone like you would have." Liam's eyes softened, and for a moment, Emma could see something in them that made her pause. It wasn't pity, it was something else, something more like understanding. He leaned in slightly, his voice lowering just a bit. "You'd be surprised how many people don't have the resources to make their dreams happen, Emma. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. Sometimes it's about finding a way, not waiting for the perfect moment." She blinked, taken aback by how much those words resonated with her. She had always believed that dreams were for those who could afford to chase them, and yet here he was, a man who had everything, telling her to just go for it. It made her wonder if maybe she had been holding herself back all this time. "You're right," she said quietly, looking down at her hands. "I think I've been too afraid to take the leap. Afraid of failing, I guess." "Everyone's afraid of failing," Liam replied, his tone steady. "But it's the ones who take that leap anyway who end up getting somewhere." Emma looked up at him, her gaze meeting his. For a moment, everything else around them seemed to fade away, and all she could focus on was the warmth in his eyes. It was strange, but in that moment, she felt like he really understood her. He wasn't just talking about business or success, he was talking about life, about taking chances, about not letting fear hold you back. "Maybe you're right," she said softly, a smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "Maybe I've been letting fear take the wheel for too long." Liam smiled back, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "You're stronger than you think, Emma." The waiter brought their food, and the conversation shifted to lighter topics, but Emma's mind kept drifting back to what Liam had said. There was something about the way he spoke, the way he made her feel like her dreams weren't out of reach, that made her feel a little more hopeful than she had before. For the first time in a long time, she felt like maybe, just maybe, things could be different. As they finished their meal and stood to leave, Liam turned to her with a soft expression. "Emma, I know this might be moving too fast, but I'd like to help you with your art. I don't mean to sound presumptuous, but I believe in your talent, and I'd love to see you take that leap. If you're open to it, I can help you get started." Emma's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't expected this, not in a million years. "You would do that for me?" Liam nodded, his expression sincere. "Of course. But only if you want to. I just think you've got something special, and it's time for you to stop holding back." She stared at him for a moment, the weight of his words sinking in. Could she really take this step? Could she accept help, especially from someone like him? "Okay," she said, her voice soft but determined. "I'll do it. I'll take the leap." Liam smiled, and for the first time since she'd met him, Emma felt like she was on the edge of something new, something exciting. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she was ready to find out. The following weeks passed by quickly, and Emma found herself both excited and overwhelmed by the new direction her life was taking. With Liam's support, she had started taking small steps toward her dream, applying for grants, looking at potential studio spaces, and even starting to build a portfolio of her work. It was all happening so fast, but there was a fire inside her now, a motivation that had been missing for so long. She was finally allowing herself to believe in something bigger than just getting by. One evening, after a long day of sketching in her small apartment, Emma received a call from Liam. She had gotten used to his messages and occasional phone calls by now, but this one felt different. He sounded more serious than usual. "Hey, Emma," he said, his voice steady but with an undercurrent of something she couldn't quite place. "I know you've been working hard, and I think it's time to take the next step. There's an event next month, the Parker Technologies Charity Gala, and I'd love for you to attend with me. I want to show you off, let people see the talent you've got." Emma froze for a moment. The charity gala was a huge event, one that people in Liam's world would talk about for months. It was the kind of event that Emma had always imagined as something for the rich and powerful, not someone like her. The thought of being seen in that crowd made her stomach churn with nerves. "I don't know," she said slowly, her voice uncertain. "I'm not sure I'm ready for something like that. I don't exactly belong in that kind of crowd." Liam's response was immediate, firm but reassuring. "Emma, that's exactly why I want you there. You belong. You've been working so hard, and you deserve to be seen for who you are, and not just some unknown artist, but someone with real potential. I believe in you, and I want to make sure the world sees that too." She didn't know how to respond at first. His words made her heart race in a way that both excited and terrified her. She had never thought of herself as someone who could be seen in that light, someone worth showing off in a room full of the elite. But then she remembered something. The feeling of the first time they met, how he had made her feel like she was more than just a waitress, more than just someone trying to get by. Maybe this could be her chance to prove to herself that she wasn't stuck in her old life, that she could rise above the fear and doubt that had held her back for so long. "I'll go," she said, her voice steadying as the words left her lips. "I'll do it." Liam's voice softened with a smile in his tone. "I knew you would. I'll make sure you have everything you need, dress, transportation, all of it. You just focus on being yourself." As she hung up the phone, Emma sat back in her chair, staring at the wall. The weight of what she had just agreed to started to sink in. The gala was going to be a big step for her, not just professionally, but personally. It wasn't just about showing up and looking the part, it was about finally stepping into a world she had always thought was out of reach. And she had to admit, the thought of it was both terrifying and exhilarating. The days leading up to the event felt like a whirlwind. Liam had arranged for a personal stylist to help her pick out a dress, and Emma was stunned at how effortlessly the whole process seemed to come together. The stylist, a cheerful woman named Rachel, picked out a beautiful floor-length gown that made Emma feel elegant and sophisticated, a far cry from the second-hand clothes she was used to wearing. On the night of the gala, Emma stood in front of the mirror in her apartment, wearing the gown and feeling like she was stepping into someone else's life. She looked so different, her hair styled in soft waves, her makeup light but perfect. She hardly recognized the woman staring back at her. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. She opened it to find Liam standing there, dressed in a sharp black tuxedo, looking every bit the part of the billionaire CEO he was. He smiled at her, his eyes lighting up with appreciation as he took in her appearance. "You look incredible, Emma," he said, his voice full of genuine admiration. She felt her cheeks flush at the compliment. "Thank you. I feel like I'm stepping into a whole new world." "You are," he replied softly, his gaze locking with hers. "And you deserve it. Now, let's go show everyone what you're made of." The drive to the gala was filled with a comfortable silence. Emma's heart was racing, and she found herself gazing out the window, lost in her thoughts. She wasn't sure what she was expecting from tonight, but she knew it was a turning point. This night could change everything, and for the first time in a long time, she felt ready to face whatever came her way. When they arrived at the venue, the building was breathtaking. Tall, gleaming glass windows reflected the lights of the city, and the red carpet leading into the gala made Emma feel like she was walking into a dream. The moment she stepped out of the car, the cameras flashed, and people turned their heads to look. She felt a sudden rush of nerves, but Liam was right there beside her, his hand gently on her back, guiding her through the crowd. As they entered the gala, Emma felt a mix of awe and disbelief. The grand ballroom was filled with the city's most influential people, CEOs, philanthropists, and artists. It was a world so far removed from the one she had grown up in, and yet, for the first time, she felt like she belonged. With Liam by her side, she wasn't just a waitress anymore. She was someone important. She was someone worth noticing. The night unfolded in a blur of dazzling lights, soft music, and an overwhelming sea of elegantly dressed people. Emma felt both out of place and somehow part of it all as she walked through the grand ballroom with Liam by her side. The moment they entered, heads turned, and a hush fell over a few nearby conversations. She was with Liam Parker, the man who had not only invited her into his world but had shown her a side of herself she never thought possible. She could feel the weight of the gazes upon her, but Liam's steady presence kept her grounded, making her feel as though this wasn't just some fantasy, this was real. "Relax," Liam whispered to her as they made their way toward a group of people standing by the refreshments table. "You're not just here as my date. You're here because you deserve to be." Emma nodded, though her heart was racing. She was still trying to grasp the idea that she, a small-town girl who had never attended an event like this, was standing in the middle of a high-society gathering. She hadn't realized how much she had been holding herself back, how much she had doubted her worth. But tonight, surrounded by millionaires and powerful figures, it was as if she was stepping into a new version of herself. As they mingled with the crowd, Emma couldn't help but notice the way people looked at her. She wasn't sure if it was because she was with Liam or if it was the confidence she now carried. Perhaps it was a mix of both. Liam introduced her to several people, all of them polite, but it was clear that she wasn't just an afterthought. She was part of the conversation, part of the story they were telling. Each time someone complimented her dress or asked about her art, Emma felt a little more at ease, a little more confident in who she was becoming. Then, as they were talking to a well-known philanthropist, Emma felt someone's eyes on her. She turned to find a woman standing nearby, her gaze fixed firmly on Emma. The woman was in her late 30s, impeccably dressed in a sparkling gown, her posture perfect, and her expression sharp. Emma recognized her instantly, Sophia, one of the top executives at Parker Technologies, someone who had been on the radar in the business world for years. Sophia's eyes flicked from Emma to Liam, then back to Emma, and for a brief moment, Emma felt a chill run through her. She knew the look, the kind of look that said, "I'm trying to figure you out, or why are you here?" Liam seemed to notice the tension as well, and he placed a reassuring hand on Emma's back. "Emma, this is Sophia," he said, introducing them. "She's one of the key players at the company." "Sophia, this is Emma." Sophia smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Nice to meet you, Emma," she said, her voice cool, yet cordial. Emma nodded, offering a smile in return. "It's nice to meet you too." The conversation turned quickly to business, and for the rest of the exchange, Emma felt like she was being sized up by Sophia, though she tried not to let it bother her. She was here, wasn't she? And she was more than just a pretty face. She had talent. She had dreams. And tonight was about her stepping into those dreams, no matter what anyone else thought. As the night wore on, Emma began to feel more comfortable in her own skin. The tension in her chest loosened, and she started to enjoy herself. She laughed at the small talk, listened intently to the conversations happening around her, and even began to join in on discussions about art, the one subject she knew best. It was easy to forget, for a moment, that she was still the same person she had been just weeks ago, the waitress from the diner, the girl with nothing but a dream. But as Liam's hand gently brushed against hers while they made their way to the dance floor, she felt a surge of warmth flood through her. Maybe, just maybe, this could be her new reality. She wasn't just someone's date tonight. She was Emma Brooks, an artist with something to offer, someone who had worked hard for her place in the world. She belonged here. The music shifted to a slower tempo, and Liam turned to her, offering his hand. "Dance with me," he asked, his voice soft, yet filled with sincerity. Without hesitating, Emma placed her hand in his, and they moved to the center of the dance floor. As they swayed to the music, she couldn't help but notice how right it felt, how effortlessly Liam guided her, his presence grounding her in a way she had never experienced before. The rest of the world seemed to fade away as they moved together, and for a few moments, it was just the two of them, connected in a way that felt both tender and powerful. "You're doing great," Liam whispered in her ear, his voice low and reassuring. Emma smiled, her heart fluttering in her chest. "I never thought I'd be here. With you. Like this." He chuckled softly, his hand resting lightly on her back. "I'm glad you're here, Emma. I'm glad we're doing this." The music swelled, and Emma realized something. She wasn't just stepping into a new world tonight. She was stepping into a new chapter of her life, one where she was no longer afraid to be seen, to be heard, and to be who she truly was. She had taken the leap, and now, with Liam by her side, there was no turning back. As the night wore on, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between her and Liam. They had danced, laughed, and shared quiet moments that felt more real than anything she had experienced in her life. The gala was still in full swing, but Emma found herself in a quiet corner of the room, away from the bustling crowd. She stepped outside for a breath of fresh air, the cool evening air hitting her face as she tried to clear her head. The night had been a whirlwind, and as much as she tried to convince herself that it was just another event, just another opportunity for Liam to show off his world to her, she couldn't help but feel like something had changed. As she leaned against the railing of the balcony, Emma thought about the journey that had brought her here. Just a few months ago, she was waiting tables in a diner, struggling to make ends meet, keeping her dreams of becoming an artist tucked away in the back of her mind. But now, she was here, at the gala, wearing a beautiful gown, surrounded by influential people. She had Liam by her side, a man who had shown her that maybe, just maybe, her dreams weren't as far out of reach as she thought. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps approaching. She turned to find Liam stepping out onto the balcony, his tuxedo jacket casually thrown over his shoulder. He looked different now, away from the formalities of the event, more relaxed, more real. "Hey, I thought I'd find you out here," Liam said with a smile, his voice calm, almost comforting. "I needed a minute," Emma replied, offering a small smile in return. "It's all a little overwhelming." Liam leaned against the railing next to her, his presence steady and reassuring. "I get it. It's a lot to take in, especially when everything happens so fast. But I'm glad you're here. I've wanted you to be part of my world for a while now, but not just as, you know, someone in my life. I wanted you to see everything, see who I am, and hopefully, see that it's not just about the wealth or the title. It's about finding something real." Emma felt a pang in her chest at his words. She had been so focused on the external things, his wealth, his status, that she had forgotten to look at what was truly in front of her. Liam wasn't just a businessman or a CEO, he was a person, just like her, with his own fears, dreams, and insecurities. And now, after spending so much time with him, she realized just how much she had been keeping herself from opening up, from allowing herself to be vulnerable. "You've done a lot for me already, Liam," Emma said softly, her voice full of gratitude. "I don't know if I'll ever be able to repay you for what you've given me, the chance to believe in myself again." Liam looked at her with a softness in his eyes that took her breath away. "You don't have to repay me, Emma. I want to help because I believe in you. I've seen how passionate you are, how much you want to make something of yourself. And if I can be the one to help you get there, then that's all the reward I need." His words resonated with her, and for the first time, Emma felt a sense of peace settle in her chest. She had been so afraid of depending on someone else, of allowing herself to trust someone who had so much power, so much influence. But Liam wasn't asking for anything in return. He was offering his support, his belief in her, because he truly wanted to see her succeed. As they stood there together, the lights of the city twinkling in the distance, Emma felt something shift inside her. She wasn't just standing at the edge of her dreams anymore, she was ready to take the leap. She didn't need to be afraid of what the future held. With Liam's encouragement, she realized that she had the power to shape her own story, to take control of her destiny. "Thank you," Emma whispered, her voice barely audible, but filled with meaning. "For everything. For seeing me." Liam turned to face her, his expression softening. "You don't need to thank me. I see you for who you are. And that's more than enough." As they shared a quiet moment, the sounds of the gala fading into the background, Emma felt a sense of belonging that she had never experienced before. She wasn't just a waitress anymore, she was Emma Brooks, an artist with a future, someone worthy of love, success, and everything else life had to offer. The night wasn't over, but Emma knew that this was just the beginning. No matter where her journey took her, she was no longer the same person who had walked into the gallery weeks ago. She was stronger, braver, and ready to take on whatever came next. With Liam by her side, Emma felt ready for the leap. And this time, she wasn't afraid. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of new beginnings for Emma. With Liam's continued support, she found herself taking bold steps toward her dreams, the ones she had pushed aside for so long. Her art began to flourish, and for the first time in her life, she felt like she was truly pursuing something meaningful. The small studio she had dreamed of opening was no longer just a distant fantasy. With a few connections Liam had helped her make, she managed to secure a space and even began planning her first exhibition. It was everything she had ever wanted, yet somehow, it felt even more surreal now that it was within reach. Every step she took toward her goal was another reminder that she had the strength to make her dreams a reality. And it wasn't just about the art anymore, it was about who she had become in the process. She wasn't just the girl from the diner anymore. She was Emma Brooks, an artist, a woman who had fought for what she wanted and was now living her truth. One evening, as she was preparing for her upcoming show, Liam invited her to a quiet dinner at his penthouse. The space was warm and inviting, the kind of home Emma had never imagined for herself. It was a far cry from her tiny apartment, but there was something comforting about the way it felt, a space filled with not just luxury, but warmth and genuine care. When she arrived, Liam greeted her with his usual smile, and for a moment, she could hardly believe how much their relationship had evolved. She wasn't just his guest anymore, she was his partner, his equal. They sat down to dinner, the atmosphere light and easy, and as they shared stories, Emma realized just how much she had come to depend on him, not for the success he had helped her achieve, but for the person he had become in her life. The man who had once seemed so distant and out of reach was now someone she could imagine a future with, someone who had shown her love, kindness, and encouragement when she had felt unworthy of it all. As they finished their meal, Liam stood up, a soft smile tugging at his lips. "There's something I've been wanting to ask you, Emma," he said, his voice calm but filled with sincerity. Emma looked up, her heart racing slightly at the sudden shift in tone. "What is it?" Liam took a deep breath and reached into his pocket, pulling out a small box. He placed it on the table in front of her, his gaze never leaving hers. "I know this might be sudden, but I want you to know something. You've changed my life in more ways than I can count. You've shown me what it means to truly care, to be vulnerable, and to take risks. And I want to spend the rest of my life showing you how much you mean to me." Emma's breath caught in her throat as Liam opened the box, revealing a simple, elegant ring. It wasn't extravagant or flashy, but it was perfect, just like everything he had shown her. "Emma, will you marry me? Will you take this chance on us, on the life we could build together?" For a moment, Emma was silent, her mind racing with the weight of his words. She hadn't expected this. Not now. Not this soon. But as she looked at Liam, she saw something more than just the CEO, the powerful businessman she had first met. She saw a man who had become her best friend, her confidant, and someone she had come to love deeply. She had never imagined her life would lead her here, but now that she was standing at this crossroads, she couldn't deny the truth in her heart. "Yes," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, I'll marry you." Liam's smile grew wider, and he gently took her hand, slipping the ring onto her finger. The moment felt timeless, like everything had fallen into place. There were no more doubts, no more fears. They had both taken risks, Emma in trusting herself and her dreams, and Liam in opening his heart to someone who had once seemed so out of reach. But now, they were here, together, and the future felt bright. As they embraced, Emma realized that this wasn't just the beginning of a new chapter, it was the start of an entirely new story, one where love, dreams, and vulnerability came together to create something beautiful. She wasn't just living for herself anymore, she was living for them, for the future they would build together. And for the first time, she felt truly at peace with where she was, who she had become, and the man who was now a part of her life. They had both found something they had been searching for, each other. And no matter what the future held, Emma knew that with Liam by her side, they could face it all, together.